They're claiming that I engaged in mortgage fraud, that I somehow decided that I was a resident of Virginia, which would be some commute every morning to the office at 28 Liberty. Somehow, what I did was basically similar to what Donald Trump engaged in. And there's just no comparison. The allegations against me are totally baseless.
A few moments later.
This Norfolk, Virginia home is co-owned by Attorney General Letitia James. That according to records that appear to show she may have claimed that house as her principal residence.
Oh, Letitia, say it ain't so. But I got a feeling it is.
Let's get ready to rumble! You can't handle the truth. Somebody on the top of the line!
Hi, I'm Pastor Marty, and this is the Afternoon Drive. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, and once you are, smack the bell, click the word all. That will give you notification of my rants, my ravings, my undeniably flawless reasonings. Please like and share this video. It's the only way that we get the word out that we're here. Thank you so much for watching and being a part of the Afternoon Drive. Letitia James, the partisan, biased, and now completely discredited and disgraced Attorney General of the Empire State of New York, ran on one issue: getting Donald Trump. Crime is out of control in New York. Real predators are basically set free. They've done away with basically the whole concept of bail. People just get arrested and released immediately. Thus is New York. And the governor, well, she's emptying out the prisons because, costs the taxpayers a lot of money to keep, feeding these people, that because they don't actually exercise and use capital punishment in that state any longer. They just turn them loose, and already the murder rate is up because they put the killers back on the streets. That's New York. And Letitia James ran on one issue of just simply getting Donald Trump. And she went after him on all things real estate. And what was it that Donald Trump supposedly did? He overvalued his real estate holdings to secure loans from banks that he paid back. And keep that in mind. And again, we've talked about this ad nauseum on here, but let me just go ahead and give you the quick recap before we dig into this. Donald Trump did what everybody does when they want to borrow money against property they own. They say it's worth XYZ. The bank, the lending institution that's going to issue the funds, they send in their own assessors. They send in their own appraisers, and they come back and say, no, it's not worth XYZ. We think it's worth ABC. They haggle back and forth. Somewhere they come to middle ground. Donald Trump said yes. The bank said yes. He took their money. He paid them back with interest. Donald Trump made money on the business deals. The banks made money. Everybody made money. No victim, no crime. Letitia James said, Mar-a-Lago was valued at apparently $18 million. It cost more than that to build it back in the 1920s. And real estate appreciates, it doesn't depreciate, unless it's Chernobyl. But that's another story. Property around Mar-a-Lago goes for $200-300 million, but we're supposed to believe that Mar-a-Lago is only worth $18 million. And where did they come up with that number? The diddler, that judge, that honestly, that white-haired old freak who looks like a guy who sits on a park bench in front of a playground wearing nothing but a raincoat. And when some 5-year-old little girl is at the sandbox and looks over at him, he flashes her and diddles himself. I call him Judge Diddler. He is just a sick, twisted freak. He assessed the value of Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago at $18 million. They didn't bring in any actual appraisers. They didn't bring in anybody to actually come in who understands anything about actual real estate law. They just simply decreed it, and then they found a Manhattan jury that hates Donald Trump to say, yup, he's guilty. Yet they can't actually point to what the crime was, who got cheated. Whether you want to call it karma, if you're a secularist, non-believer in God, or those of us who are believers in God would say sowing and reaping. One thing we know about Democrats, the very thing they love to accuse Republicans of, that they love to accuse conservatives of, because Democrats are all about projection. They just automatically assume that because they are corrupt, everyone else is too. Letitia James, there's two primary cases here. One is of a property right there in New York City that when she borrowed to buy it, it had 5 apartment units in it. But 5 apartment units would have required under New York law that she have a commercial loan. So she listed it as 4 units. You get lower insurance, lower mortgage rate, and it doesn't have to be a commercial loan. So therefore, it's not subject to all of the commercial laws. The unit, the building, has 5 apartments in it. That's the way it's listed in the New York City registry. Not looking good there, Letitia. Not looking good. But the one that's exploding on her is this house in Virginia that she and her staff are trying to claim, look, her niece lives there. She kind of came on as a co-signer. No. Documents prove that she bought the house to be her primary residence. That means she was telling the bank in Virginia that she was going to make that house in Virginia her primary residence. And she even had some of her own staff sign off, staff in the Attorney General's office in New York, sign off to that so that she could get the lower rate, and the paperwork is exposed. And we know that Letitia James and Al Sharpton and certain members of a certain political viewpoint of a certain skin tone want to somehow project this as this is racism, this is Donald Trump, this is lawfare, they're just simply coming after her. No. Let's play the Democrats' greatest hit list. No one is above the law, Letitia.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
The fact is, no one is above the law.
The idea that no person is above the law is a bedrock principle of American justice.
No man is above the law.
No one is above the law.
That, nor any other title, puts you above the rule of law.
No one is above the law.
That is what it means to have a rule of law. That is what it means to not have a king.
They're not above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
It's really pretty simple. If you are buying a piece of property that is not going to be your primary residence, it's not just simply that lenders aren't real excited about that. It's the fact that they worry that if you ever have a financial crisis, well, the property that you live in, that's the one that you're going to worry about making sure that you're paying on because you live there. But if you bought, say, a summer home in, the Adirondacks of New York, or you have bought a winter home on the beaches of Florida, there's nothing wrong with that, but you're going to pay a little bit higher mortgage rate. Why? Number one, you're not a resident, which again, lending institutions are looking at this through the prism of, well, you're not actually going to be there year round to have eyes on and upkeep, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just how it works. She was buying a home in Virginia. Maybe she was trying to help her niece out. I don't know. Don't care. She listed herself as that being her primary residence so that she could secure a lower interest rate. And what's sad for Letitia is now even members of the mainstream media, the lying legacy corporate corrupt media, the old guard establishment media, even they're taking a step back saying, yeah, Houston, there really is a problem here.
It just seems to me so incredibly dumb that it's hard to believe, right? That the sitting attorney general of New York would list her principal residence in Virginia, knowing that she's stepping into a beehive, right? I mean, a hornet's nest, whatever you want to call it, with regard to Trump. I mean, I guess I'm not quite yet giving her the benefit of the doubt because it seems to me so ridiculous that you would think you could get away with that.
Look, I don't know what her intention was when she signed that power of attorney claiming that this home in Virginia was going to be her principal residence, but everything happens in context, right, Dan? I mean, the context of that document, it's 2023. Joe Biden is the president. 2023, it's in her mind, Joe Biden is going to be reelected president, and she's doing all that she can in 2023 to prevent Donald J. Trump from being elected president. So, and it's in Virginia. Who's going to be looking at this document? Who's going to be even aware that she's buying this home in Virginia? So, again, I don't know what her intentions were, but I'm pointing to the atmospherics that surrounded, her conduct in 2023. If she indeed did sign that power of attorney, which it looks like she did, where she attested that this was going to be her personal residence, perhaps she thought that it was never going to be uncovered.
Boom, and there it is. That's exactly right. She was doing this in 2023, fully assuming that Joe Biden is going to return to the White House because, after all, she was being stroked and diddled by the Biden administration. They were the ones putting her up to going after Donald Trump on these real estate charges. She just assumed that whatever she did, just like Alvin Bragg, Fat Al, there in New York, they just assumed that it would be a continuation of the Biden administration, whether it was Joe Biden or Kamala thinks she's a hottie, can't stay sober an entire 24 hours in a day, Harris, and she is a drunken lush. They just assume it would be Democrat control, Democratic power, que sera, status quo, cover up would continue. Who's going to go looking into this? Who went looking into it? The former accountant for Crazy Eddie Retailer. He just decided, and he's not a Trump guy. He wasn't paid by anybody. He just started looking into this, saying, there's a problem here. There's real fraud here. And here she is supposed to be this patron saint of going after a fraud like a Donald Trump. When in reality, her fraud is real. People have been cheated. Actual crimes have been committed. And, well, after all, Letitia, no one is above the law, right?